morning, everybody. So let's start with the Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasena Gathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritvarshinim Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayani Am Tvam Anusandhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavdveshini Namo Astu Te Vyas Vishal Buddhe Full Arvind Ayat Patra Netar येन तव्या भारत तैल पूर्ण प्रज्वलितो ज्ञान में प्रदीप परपान्न पारी जाताये तोत्र वेत्र एकपानये ज्ञान मुद्राये कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोक्ता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूरमर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगद्गुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्ये ग्राहवती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरः दुर्योधन अवर्तने सोतीर्णा खलु पांडवै रन्नदी कवर्तका केशवा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलं गीता अर्थगंधोटकम् नानाख्यानक केसरम हरिकथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदय रह पेपीयमानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरं यत्कृपातमं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम् यं ब्रह्मवरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्ये स्तवे वेदै साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यं सामदा ध्यानवस्थि तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुषुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. So if you remember, we ended our last Sunday's class with verse number 35. And in verse number 36, Lord Krishna is discussing the next thing, the theme which he's talking about, which is happiness. Because he has been telling us the constituents of the actions. Then he described the factors that motivate and control action. And now he's moving on to the goal of action. Goal of anybody's action is happiness. Okay? Sukham tu idanim trividham shrinu me bharat rishabh abhyasat ramte yatra dukhantam cha nigachyate. Sukham, happiness, pleasure. Tu means indeed. Idanim, now. Trividham, threefold. Shrinu, here. Me, me. Bharatrishab, Lord of the Bharats. Abhyasat, from practice. Ramte, rejoices. Yatra, in which. Dukhantam, the end of pain. Cha means end. Nigachati, he attains to. So Lord Krishna says, and now hear from me, O best among the Bharats, of the threefold pleasure, in which one rejoices by practice and surely comes to the end of pain. We want to end all our pains. Okay? So, if you can take your mind back, three factors that constitute the impulse of the action was the knowledge, the actor, and the action. And Lord Krishna told us those all three are of three kinds. Then after that, the motive forces he explained in all our activities. It's like the gyan he mentioned, gyan which not only motivates us, it propels us to do the activity intelligently. Gyan. It directs us also. And then he talked about the buddhi, the wisdom. And he talked about the dhriti, the fortitude. So this is what we have been learning. So every actor acts in his field, guided by his knowledge, ruled by his understanding, that's the buddhi, and maintained by his dhriti, which is fortitude. So all these three we need to work on, and we got to keep an eye on. So it's like a beautiful dissection and observation of the action, our work. So that's why I told you it's almost like an anatomy and physiology of action, the way he has presented it to us. But now it is the psychology of action which he is giving it to us. Why do we act? He says for the happiness. The ultimate motive behind our action is the search for happiness. Everyone desires to be happy through their actions. They seek fulfillment, peace, satisfaction. Those are different names for happiness. But everyone's actions differ in their constituent factors. The kind of a happiness they derive out of their action is also different. See, so buddhi is tamasic, fortitude is tamasic, the happiness will be tamasic too. Only a sattvic buddhi can give a sattvic happiness. So every living creature acts and propelled by the same instincts, which is happiness, craving for happiness. A little ant as well as human beings, or even beyond human beings. Okay, so the same goal. But why he said abhyas over here? Through practice. That is a key word in this. Abhyas. Because when we want happiness, we want sattvic, we need to make sattvic abhyas also. We cannot keep on acting tamsikly and expect a sattvic happiness. So we got to learn how to readjust, reevaluate our life. Only then we'll come to end our sorrows totally. Or at least remove some of the sorrows. So for that, abhyas is needed. So let's look at how he dissects happiness for us. Number 37. Yat tat agre visham parinam mehe amrita upamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atam buddhi prasadajam. So this is a definition of a sattvic happiness. Yat means which, tat means that. Agre, at first. That means in the beginning. Visham, poison. Iv means like, or like a as if. Pariname, in the end. Amritaha upamam, like nectar. See, amrit is nectar. Upamam means like. Tat means that. Sukham is pleasure. Satvikam, satvik. Proktam is declared to be. Atam buddhi prasadajam. Born of the purity of one's own mind due to self-realization. Atam buddhi prasadajam. Born of the purity of one's own mind due to self-realization. That when that becomes a goal, then sure there's a purity. That which is like poison at first, but nectar-like in the end, that pleasure, that happiness is declared to be sattvic. Born of the purity of one's own mind due to self-realization. Due to self-realization. So that happiness, which in the beginning is like a poison, that means very painful. when it works itself out, fulfills itself, a nectarine success. It's an enduring happiness. Another way you can look at it, happiness that arises from the constant effort is the happiness that can yield a greater beauty, larger sense of fulfillment. Flimsy happiness arises only through sense indulgence, sense gratification. That's a flimsy joy, fleeting joy, the way we say it. But the joy arising out of the inner self-control, this is Atam Buddhi Prasadajam, inner self-control. And outcome of that is what? A sense of self-perfection. That is not a cheap gratification. That's not a cheap happiness. For this you have to do abhyas. Anything you want to attain which is worth attaining, there's an effort. And when we start doing the effort, it seems like a lot of hard work. And that's why it says poison. But a person who has discovered in himself the necessary courage and the heroism to walk on the path of self-purification and the inward balance will definitely come to enjoy that lasting fulfillment. So in other words, happiness arising out of self-control and self-discipline is classified as a sattvic sukh. Control your senses. Because that's why he said, born out of purity of one's own mind. How do we purify our mind? In order to purify the mind, we better have a purified and well-controlled senses also. So these words over here, that Atam Buddhi Prasadajam, is a very key word over here, technical word. Atam Buddhi Prasadajam, born out of the purity of one's own mind. So that means carefully live the life of a sattvic. Have a disciplined life, self-controlled life. Only then you will develop the prasad of your own nature. Prasad, that means a grace. That means a tranquility also. But you have to work on it. So the peace and tranquility, the joy and expansion that our mind and intellect come to experience as a result of our discipline and contemplation are the true prasad. See, the ordinary word prasad which we use when we get it, when we go to the mandir, we get a prasad. It's a sweet, it's a fulfilling, feels good, gives a satisfaction. But this prasad is even higher than that. That we only eat. This we feel. So in summary, the sense of fulfillment, a gladness of heart that really wells up inside us. And where does it come from? This is a result of a balanced and self-disciplined life of high ideals. And you know that if you have high ideals, sure there is a struggle. You have to work hard to live up to your own ideals. Or if you have a divine values of life. But if you have those, if you work on those, what will happen? The outcome is enduring happiness, which men of perfection, of all true men of religion, feel. That happiness cannot be taken away, it cannot be shaken away from you. That's why he said, Yat tat agre visham. In the beginning, you have to work hard. Pariname amritam upamam. Parinam is that which is enduring, which is everlasting, which cannot be shaken, and which will go with you also. It will help you here and hereafter. It's not just for this lifetime. Okay, so this is the promise. This is what Lord Krishna is telling us. Sattvic happiness. And we all want happiness. Nobody will say, I want unhappiness. But for sattvic happiness, this is what we need to do. Make your mind pure, make your intellect pure. Have a disciplined life, balanced life. A technical term for this is Yog Anukul life. Live like a yogi. And yogi's life is disciplined. The way yogi stands, the way yogi sits, the way yogi eats, the way yogi sleeps, everything is well disciplined. Then there's a everlasting happiness. Okay, so let's look at Rajasic happiness. Vishe Indriye Sanyogat Yat Tat Agre Amrit Upamam Pariname Visham Ivatat Sukham Rajasam Samritam. Vishe Indriye Sanyogat, from the contact of the sense organs with the objects. See, Vishe is the objects, Indriya is the sense organs, Sanyog is the contact. So from the contact of the sense organs with the objects. Yat means which, tat means that, agre, at first, in the beginning. Amrit upamam, like nectar. So in the beginning, it looks like a nectar. Pariname, in the end. Visham, poison. Iv means like, tat means that. Sukham, pleasure. Rajasam, rajasic. Samritam is declared. So he's saying that pleasure which arises from the contact of the sense organs with the objects, which is at first like nectar, but is in the end like poison, that is declared to be Rajasic. So happiness which arises in our heart, when a certain world of objects come in contact with our sense organs, and we know what sense organs are: our eyes, our ears, our nose, touch, taste, is indeed a thrill. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. In the beginning, it seems like a nectar. It's a thrill, nectarine. But unfortunately, it vanishes as quickly as it comes. What happens? It even dumps the enjoyer into a pit of exhaustion. And all the energies also, they get dissipated. So Rajasic happiness arises only when the sense organs are actually in contact with the sense objects. Unfortunately, the contact cannot be permanently established. Because sense organs are not permanent, sense objects are not permanent, so there cannot be a permanent contact. They are variable. And the instruments that come in contact with the objects are also variable and changing. See, just like a first piece of chocolate tastes pretty good. But then if you start worrying, there are only 10 pieces. So variable. Or suppose you have 50 pieces, and by the time you eat 25 or 30th piece, you feel like throwing up. It's pretty painful. Okay, so sense organs are not permanent, or they are not everlasting, or they are not ever expanding, and sense objects are not ever expanding. On the other hand, with the sattvic happiness, atam buddhi prasadajam, when you know yourself who you are, through that kind of happiness, that's ever expanding. becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So sense organs cannot afford to embrace the sense objects at all times with the same appetite. The same appetite. And that's why there is an unhappiness at the end. Okay? So in other words, Rajasic happiness is experienced as a thrill, which is arising from the contact between the senses and the sense objects, Vishay and Indriya. But the joy is as short-lived as the contact itself. What happens is, what does it leave behind? Greed, anxiety, guilt, and even a thickening of the Maya, the material illusion. There's no lasting divine bliss which we feel with the sattvic happiness. Because the path of sattvikta, that gives us everlasting happiness. That's what he's trying to tell us. So, I mean, we can see that in the morning we are supposed to get up and do meditation. We are supposed to do yoga. Physical, mental, all of it. But if we say, no, I'm going to just sleep in the bed a little longer, the time is being passed. Sure, it feels good at that time to just spend extra half an hour in the bed. But later on, you'll feel guilty about it. So in the beginning, it's peaceful. In the end, it's a poison. But if you get up, sure, first couple of minutes, it will be hard to get out. That's like a wish. To get out of that warm and cozy bed early in the morning, sure, it's like a poison. But only for temporarily. Once you get out of your bed and start doing what you're supposed to do, that's like a amrita. And I'm sure you have gone through both sides of it in your lifetime. Okay? So, to a true thinker, the temporary joys of sense objects are not at all satisfactory because they bury the enjoyer in a tomb of sorrow sooner or later. Okay? So this is the kind of a happiness which is called Rajasic. So we don't like Rajasic happiness. We like Sattvic happiness. Let's look at it. If you don't like Rajasic, what is a Tamasic happiness? Yat agre cha anubandhe cha sukham mohanam atmana nidra alasya pramad uttam tat tamsam udaritam. Yat means which, agre at first, cha means and, anubandhe in its consequence. So before also, afterwards also. Sukham is happiness, mohanam is delusive, atmana of the self. Nidra alasya parmad uttatham. Nidra. See, uttatham means arising. So arising from nidra is sleep, alasya is laziness, and parmad is carelessness, negligence. These are tamasic qualities. Nidra, alasya, parmad. We have seen that in the other verses also, in fact, in other chapters also. Tat means that, tamsam means tamasic, udaharitam is declared. The pleasure which at first and in the sequel. So consequence of that also. Deludes the self. So which makes us forget who we are. Arising from sleep, laziness, and carelessness is declared to be tamasic. So happiness, tamasic happiness is that which deludes the higher in us. It creates a thick crust of wrong values, false ideals. It ruins the spiritual sensitivity of the personality. Human birth was given to us to attain divinity, and we just forget that. We are just moving towards that kind of a happiness, which is doesn't show us that the divinity in us. Okay, so the first he talked about the nidra, because he talked about nidra alas parmad. Nidra is it's not a physical nidra. Every night we need to sleep to give a rest to the body, rest to the mind. What is this nidra? It's a philosophical nidra. Non-apprehension of the reality is a philosophical nidra. Incapacity to understand. See, non-apprehension of reality means not knowing who you are, not even paying any attention to it, not perceiving anything permanence in you. That is a non-apprehension of reality. Incapacity to understand the goal of life. Okay, so that's a nidra. So that means not even understanding it. Living a life of only gratification at the flesh level. And alasya, the laziness, that's called inertia also. See, not only an inertia of the body, but it's an inertia of the intellect. Because your intellect becomes so insensitive to the inspiring life. See, your own, you just move towards the lower instincts and lower impulses, because in intellect, you're not giving your intellect enough energy to move up. And then negligence or the carelessness, parmad, that is, you are ignoring the voice of a higher in you. You're just becoming careless about it. There is a voice of the Atma which comes that, hey, I need to look at something better in life, work for better, but you just shut it. You don't even listen to that voice. You become so careless, you ignore. That is a tamsikta. So when such a person who is careless of the higher calls or higher voices and becomes lazy at the intellectual level, completely asleep to the existence, seeks happiness, what will he seek happiness? Where will he seek happiness? Where there is a pain in the beginning and there's a pain at the end also. Pain in the beginning. What gives the pain in the beginning? See, the tamasic happiness, it's such a low kind of a happiness. It's like a foolishness from the beginning to the end. It throws a person into the darkness of ignorance. But there's a tiny amount of happiness people feel from it, tiny amount, and they get addicted to it. All kinds of addictions, whether it's a cigarette smoking or whether it's a habit of drinking, habit of lying, those are all tamasic happiness. Or gossiping, those are all tamasic happiness. Okay, so in the beginning also, a person who can see it clearly can say that it's wrong. Every cigarette packet, they even put a warning on it. But the tamasic happiness does not let a smoker see that warning. Or even a drinking. I always tell people that it smells bad, looks ugly, costs so much money. Why a person will drink it? Why? Tamasic intellect does not let the person go beyond this. So a little bit of happiness they see in it because everybody else is doing it sometimes. Or they have been brainwashed. But there's a dullness comes in that higher level of intellect. So in the beginning, it's a pain, it's an end in the pain too. Okay? So Nidra, Alasya, Pramad. These are the three key words. And then at first it's painful, sequel is painful too. Okay? And here follows a verse which concludes this subject. Number 40. न तत् अस्ति पृथिव्याम व दिवि देवेषु व पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजे मुक्तम यत एभि स्यात् त्रिभि गुणैः. न means not, tat means that. Asti means is. Prithivyam, on the earth. See, Prithvi is the earth, on the earth. Va means or, Divi in the heavens. Deveshu, among the devatas, the angels, the divine beings. Va means or, Puna means again. Sattvam being Prakriti Jai, born of Prakriti, Muktam freed. Yat means which, Abhi from these. Sayat may be, Tribhi from three, Gunai by qualities. There is no being on earth or again in the heavens among the Devatas, heavenly beings, who is totally liberated from the three qualities born of Prakriti. Okay? So as long as we are in the manifested world, and manifested could be the gross manifestation or even an unmanifested world, because we don't see the divine beings, but they are there. So all of us are the crutches of these three gunas. Three gunas. So no living organism in the world who is totally free from the influence of these three gunas. So no creature can act or work beyond the frontiers of these three gunas. So we can move between these gunas, but beyond these three gunas, if we need to go, that is called a Trigunatit. Then we become one with God. Then there's no action at all. As long as we are acting, as long as we are separate, we are under the influence of these three gunas. And these gunas are called the gunas of the nature or the Prakriti. So, but at the same time, no two creatures react to the world outside in the same fashion. Why? Because of the proportion in which these three gunas come to influence. So proportion does get changed. So these three gunas put together are the manifestation of Maya. That's why we are called Maya Adheen. We are under the influence of the Maya. And what is God called? He is Maya Adhyaksha. So Maya is in his control. We are under the control of the Maya. And these three gunas are the one which is called Maya. So it is the Maya that gives us our individuality. Nobody can exist without this Maya, these three gunas. So we got to introspect, we got to evaluate ourselves every day, every minute. Are we predominantly sattvic? Are our actions sattvic? Is our happiness sattvic? Is our buddhi sattvic? Is our dhriti sattvic? But knowledge sattvic or not if we want to be predominantly sattvic? Avoid the lower gunas, avoid the tamsikta and rajsikta. Steadily work yourself up towards the achievement of the sattvic state. I would say write it down, go back to these verses. I want only sattvic happiness. No matter how hard I have to work. Lord Krishna said it will be poison in the beginning. It's okay. I'm ready to drink that poison. In the beginning, at the end, he says it's an nectar. I will have a disciplined life. I will make sure there's all kinds of knowledge which I'm reading. It unites everybody instead of divides. Look at the definition of sattvic buddhi also. Sattvic dhriti also. Because only after reaching the state of the sattvikta, we can be ushered into the state of godhood. Because that is our goal. Our goal is not just to stay as a human being or even go lower than the human being. Our goal is to become God. Perfection, absolute. And that can happen only if we are predominantly sattvic. If we are in between, then definitely it's not going to work. In the next theme in this chapter, he's going to tell us predominantly sattvic, what are the qualities? Little bit sattvic and more rajasic, what are the qualities? More rajasic and some tamasic, what are the qualities? And what is predominantly tamasic also? We'll learn about that also. That's how the 4 classifications in the human beings in every society is there. And it's up to us where we want to be. This is the freedom we all have. You should go back to chapter 4, verse number 13. Lord Krishna said, Chatur varnya maya srishtam gunkaram vibhagsha. We should never forget what we have learned before. Tasya kartaram api imam vidve akartaram avyam. He says the 4 categories of occupations were created by me according to people's qualities, the gunas, and activities, the actions. Although I am the creator of this system, he says, know me to be non-doer and eternal. So this is the next topic in this chapter. So Lord Krishna is just trying to make us understand that our inner equipment, antakarana, is such that which can be molded, which can be changed. And it's up to us to change it. Anything in the Prakriti can be changed. In fact, it is changing. But if we want to move it towards the perfection, we got to work harder. Work harder. Okay? And another 2 terms we will learn is a Swabhav and Swadharma. Write it down. Today, I think I won't have time to go into the next theme, but Swabhav is our nature. And Swadharma is our station in life. We'll learn about this also. Okay? So today, I think I would like to stop it here. 3 things we have to do. Urmil is going to recite the verses which from 18 onwards up to here, up to 40. She'll be reciting that. Before Urmil starts, I would like to bless Robert. It was his birthday. And after Urmil's recitation, then many will like to sing. Okay, a bhajan. So, and then after that, you can ask questions. So, Robert, are you there? Jyoti, is Robert there?
I am here.
Yeah, Robert is there.
All right. So it was his birthday, and in person we couldn't bless him this year, but we would like to bless him, all of us together. He has been such a great devotee and a highly disciplined yoga student. In fact, not just a student, he's a yoga teacher also. And very proud of him. And we bless you so that you stay on this path, Robert, for a long, long time. So he's learning. He used to record all this also. And one time he told me he just plays it back while he's trying to sleep. So all these messages, because they really sink in deeper if we hear it again and again and again. That's what happens. That's why I'm very pleased that Jyoti is recording all of this too. So wherever it helps you. Okay. So please repeat after me. Hey Robert.
Hey Robert.
Tvam
Tvam
Ayushman
Ayushman
Varchasvi Tejasvi
Tejasvi
Shriman
Shriman.
Bhuya.
Yeah.
God bless you, Robert.
God bless you, Robert, for the happy,
Happy
healthy,
birthday,
long life.
Robert.
Happy birthday, Robert. Happy birthday.
Okay, now let